Well, we're a bit of a law and order show today. Because, look, it was a nice Easter break, apart from my hay fever in Auckland. It wasn't, though, for 6 or 7, and I don't know why it's debatable. We had our worst Easter weekend holiday road toll in 3 years. Why? And this is with the reduced speed limits that are going to be changed around. So what happened? And what went wrong last weekend? And was it preventable? I mean, every accident, because it's an accident, is actually preventable, isn't it? To talk more about this, we are joined now by Thomsen from the AA. I think their road safety manager. Dylan's on the line now. Dylan, good morning to you. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning.
Not a great weekend. Is there any common denominators that we can at this stage, and obviously details still sketchy, as to a common link to these accidents?
It's too early to say anything about the crashes that have just happened. It'll take months probably for the crash investigations to be complete. So I can't say anything about those particular crashes. And sometimes the initial reports that come out in the media when the investigation's finished, the initial reports are basically line up perfectly with what happened, and sometimes actually once the investigations go and look at it, they can find some other things that nobody knew initially. So it's too early to talk about those specific
A very
crashes.
wise and patient decision to take. If we can't talk about this weekend, can we talk overall about trends that are emerging in road safety and accidents, fatal or indeed otherwise, on our roads, Dylan? Because, of course, we have far more serious injury accidents than we do fatal accidents, but they still have a massive impact on people's lives.
They do, and looking at the bigger picture is where we can sort of say things with a bit more confidence. One of the things that's really concerning us at the AA is we think anecdotally there's seems to be more extreme and reckless behaviour going on the roads, and we did a little bit of analysis earlier this year looking at the last few Christmas to New Year holiday periods. Yep. And what we found there was for the two sort of previous holiday periods, more than 3/4 of the fatal crashes involved either alcohol, drugs, or somebody not wearing a seatbelt, which was much higher than we've seen in the past, and it really surprised us actually when we saw that amount of the fatal crashes involving either one or in some cases all three of those things combined.
Which are all human decisions, aren't they? They are all things that happen at a decision-making level in someone's head. You're either going to drink or drive, you're going to drug or drive, or you're not going to make it go click.
Yes, they are all decisions, and I mean ultimately, apart from some very rare freak occurrences, most of the crashes involve decisions or people making mistakes at some level. But that figure of sort of 75% plus was the highest we've ever seen. But we've recognised, hey, look, that's a small snapshot. And it's a particular time of the year where people can behave unusually. So one of the things we've been saying in our dealings with the government is we think they need to be doing a bigger bit of research and analysis here, looking at more crashes. But we're really concerned that we're seeing more extremely reckless behaviour going on, and we'd like them to do a bit of work on that, because if we are seeing an increasing proportion of our fatal crashes involving, drugs, alcohol, no seatbelts, then you really need to look at the enforcement side of things of what we're doing and trying to beef that up. But it's different than if you have people making mistakes, losing control, basically following the rules and getting things wrong. So that's one of the things we're really concerned about at the moment is that we may be seeing much more extreme behaviour.
Reports this week too, Dylan, that the government cannot find a reliable roadside drug test.
Yes, I would frame that a bit differently myself, which is the legislation that got passed a couple of years ago now.
Yeah.
It set standards that no testing device was going to be able to meet. So what we've got at the moment is a mismatch between what the legislation says is required for these devices to be used and what the testing devices can provide. Now, these are the same testing devices that are used in Australia and a number of other countries.
Okay, so they exist.
Well, they do, but the legislation needs to be changed so that they can actually be operated. And essentially, the standard that was being asked for them to meet was not going to be possible.
Practical.
But you can make it work.
Yeah.
With a different process, a different system. So, for example, in Australia, the way they do it is they do an initial test at the roadside, and if that's positive, then you are not able to drive. You are banned from driving for a small period, and then they take a second sample and send that away to a laboratory, and the laboratory does an evidential standard analysis.
Okay. Does that mean you can stop someone from driving if they appear positive without having a level?
Well, there would be a level for them to. The device shows a level, but that is just going to say you're not able to drive for the next 6 hours or 12 hours or something like that.
Yeah.
But it only proceeds to any sort of criminal sanctions or penalties with that second sample being sent to a laboratory. Because that will be able to give you more detailed analysis of what the levels are.
I looked at this story last week and I want to cover it. In fact, can we put this on the list, Ben? Nick Smith, who's the Mayor of Nelson, is really into that issue because it seems to me getting that legislation altered so we could use the internationally accepted tests on drug testing, that would be an easy thing to put in the next 3-month or 100-day plan, wouldn't it, and get done?
Well, we're hoping that the legislation is going to be changed this year. And so we can actually make some progress on this. I mean, we thought that the devices would be in operation by now. We were really, really shocked and disappointed when we had the stuff up last time. That means that we couldn't use them. They should be on the roads by now.
Yeah. Well, as I said, that's an issue that I looked at and thought we've got to get into it. I'm going to ask you another question. From the research you've got, is there an age cohort that is particularly at risk of these risky on-road behaviours, and has that age cohort or indeed gender balance changed at all over the years, Dylan?